So hello and welcome to the 6th episode of Nightmare Down Under, the GearCity Let's Play, where we play Down Under in Australia on Nightmare difficulty. We started in 1900, now it is August 1912, and in the last episode we just finished designing the new platform for our new medium wheelbase cars. So we had to sort of do that to keep getting these design skills for the next 5 years. And we now have a second ladder frame with a 2.5 meter wheelbase. We have now an engine that sits somewhere in between the old medium and the old large engine. So 2-cylinder 700cc engine that makes 7 horsepower, I think. And a new 2-speed gearbox, non-synchronized with a reverse gear. So we look at our lineup. So the oldest car that we have is our Phaeton, but that's close to the end of its life cycle anyway. So it's not worth working on this any further at the moment, because it's still selling well and has still some life in it. And the next two oldest are the Sedan and the Touring, and I think both sit on the medium wheelbase. So I'm going to start with a new Sedan, since it's the more expensive one, and the Touring shall be cheaper. And costs go down once we start putting things into production. So a new Sedan, and that also allows us to take a new look for them if we want to. So a new vehicle, advanced Sedan, on the new platform with the new 7 horsepower engine, so that's still weaker than our top of the line models, and the new 2-speed gearbox, which is considerably better in terms of key scores than the old one, and also less units to manufacture. So car body, I think we don't have this. We have this one currently. So what else? So what we could do is this, and this would be a bit of a shorter version compared to our full-size sedan. So what's the size of this? So 993. Here's another one, 945, so the speed is better. This is another style that we could go for, but I think we stay a bit conservative, 945 and 993, so the speed is still better. Triple peaks, it's smaller, considerably though. And these are also smaller, yes. So it's a bit of a pity that we don't have a really good progression. 891, and this is the same basic style. So anything useful up here if we don't? So this is more of a full-size sedan look, really? Nope. So then we're going with this as the new look, so less of a box thing. It's still a box. It's actually more boxy, but it's a wider box. So that works, and it's also larger, so it's a bit of an improvement, a progression. Otherwise, same trick. We don't have to keep things totally low, so I'm giving a little bit more sliders, although that probably won't make a difference compared to the lowest possible, but it's still pretty low, especially since we don't have competition yet. I'm staying with upper middle because the sedans are pretty expensive. And market demographics still makes things, well, it doesn't make things worse, but it doesn't make things better either. So reliability, I think, is something they want. 27, 28. Utility, cargo, 29. Bit of performance, 30. I suspect safety. No safety, 31. There we go. And maybe some extra quality here. That doesn't do a thing. So that's then something we can leave for a subsequent upgrade. Because here even one of the comfort luxury sliders to the maximum doesn't do anything. And yeah, these are all at the limit. So 773, just being curious. How expensive was the old one? This is about the same price, just with newer components and thus with better scores. So 12 months for 382, 11 months 500. Yeah, so I think we go with 11 because 12 is much more expensive. So I think 11 is a bit of a sweet spot here. So what do we get? Top speed 43, that's okay. And fuel consumption 14.5, I think this is reasonable. What did we get with the old one? Probably less, but just only because the engine was more refined. 13.6, yeah, 14.5, but we are a bit more powerful. 7 and 32. 5 and 35, but again, this is the refined engine, so we even have a little bit more torque with the old one, but less top speed. So it's a marginal improvement, but that's all we want. That's all we're happy with. So it's the 7 sedan, finished in 11 months. So let's put it into work, and otherwise I think we can just advance and watch the cash roll in. So this is not the highest cash flow. Was this a tax month? Yeah, we paid 1 million in taxes. So that's a good problem to have if the tax expenses are high. That means there is a lot of profit to be taxed. We can use new technologies, a 9-cylinder engine, maybe for the next one, or not. So otherwise, sales are stable. We're not can make less 5 sedans, so 330. Everything else, and a few less Phaetons too, 900. Yep, so this is very stable. So down in 8. Production capacity is fine. So even if we need to upgrade things such as now when we just sold more than 1,000 cars of a certain type in a given month. So that's a new record, and the other sales are also nice and brisk. New contract requests, nothing for us. Lots of awards, still no competition. Let's see whether we get some competition before the next years. So 1,000 Phaetons, yeah, so we have ample production capacity. 5 lines in Melbourne, 3 lines in Sydney, so that's plenty. Since we don't have more cars, since we have the most popular things anyway, with 1 or 2 exceptions maybe. And a few more 5 coupes, perhaps. Sedan in 7. A few more Grand coupes. Everything else, maybe a bit less Phaetons again. Sedan in 6. So Grand Coupe gets another production line. Eight sedans, 200. That's the big one. Rest is great. So it's a new year. So let's look at sales figures. So top sales in the last year. Our new facelifted Phaeton. It is top 10, probably. I'm not going to count now, but it looks like top 10. All time. So that's the new one. 48,000. So we are now on the first page. That's top 15, probably. So the Phaeton is really working well. So not cutting its life short. There's another backbone frame, but we can't design it yet. All a matter of skills. So, to a few production items, rather 1, the Touring and Phaeton, and 5 sedan. the other two are in Melbourne. So hang on, 1094 Phaetons and 480 Tourings. That's another production line. So I'm leaving sales numbers as they are to stock a bit up on reserves, especially now that we have higher fluctuations. Sedan in 3. And I'm keeping the fiction that we only have the R&D capacity for one big project at a time, so either a new platform or a new car. It's sort of unlimited, so they treat engineers here as sort of wage laborers that you can hire and fire, and not having a fixed engineer staff with a limited capacity. Okay, so I can make some downward adjustments. So 950 Phaetons. $450 Tourings. 280 Grand Coupes in the other factory. Nope, it's the other production line, so we still need that. But that's just penny pinching on my end. So Sedan in 1, so we can sunset it. So it's producing 220 to be on the safe side. Melbourne Commercial. So we have our contract candidate. So the old Sedan. Yep, so cutting 2 production lines. So let's see what contracts they want. Melbourne Commercial Fleet. They want a full-size sedan, but one that's way more economical than ours. That's a bit of a bummer with some of these, especially with the early contracts. There was something with a pretty high fuel economy that you normally wouldn't build. So 14.8 is something we barely get with our smaller sedan. So yeah, no chance. So sedan next month. So we missed a few sales, so was a bit conservative with closing down the production line. Everything else is fine, so then we can do the usual thing and put it into production. So the 5 sedan out of production, the 7 sedan into production, and that would be something like 400. So something like this, so that for something similar. Maybe a bit less even than the old one. And it's better, and it will last longer, since it's now very fresh components. So that means we can stop production of the 5 sedan, and I'll give the Touring the same treatment, so new Touring. On a new platform, we can go for a new lick too. So same components. Could put the bigger engine into it actually. And maybe for another edition. So here I'm simply keeping costs low. So this is this type that we have. I think we have this. So this is a longer wheelbase. This is smaller, but also tiny cargo. This is what we had. 688. So if it had 688 or more, would be nice. 656. 730. So that one looks good. 676. This is a bit of a longer wheelbase, but we also increased our wheelbase a bit. So I think this is within acceptable parameters of what's still realistic when we have to have our house rule that our chassis wheelbase has to sort of fit the appearance. They actually like a bit of luxury, so I'm keeping the sliders a bit higher all around. Safety, let's find out how much they want that. Still I'm going to cut down on these things, and then upper middle. Yeah, I'm keeping upper middle, so middle class is really Phaeton, and everything else is priced a bit higher. So reliability, probably something they want. 28. 29. Yeah. Utility 30. They love performance. 33. Safety. Yep, safety 34. Some more quality. No, that's at the upper limit, so that works. 727. The old one was 681, so it's a bit more expensive. And top speed 48 is nice. So, okay, 11 months, 650. 12 months, 441, yeah. So again, 11 months. That seems to be a good compromise at this point. Okay, that's our new Touring. And it's the 7 Touring. So we put the right car into production so that we don't repeat the mistake we did last time. Yep, that works. What does the press think? So the new 7 sedan. It's sluggish, but it does what it has to do, get from point A to point B. So engine was fine. And it's not fantastic, but enough for a daily driver. And subpar torque. So it could have a bit more. I think that's the price we're paying for our 2 cylinders. The 4-cylinder or higher, more cylinder engines have more torque. It's not the fastest sedan on our track. It performed well in the twisty bits. And absolutely worst interiors they've ever seen. Cargo space is a little tight despite us using the big box. So it was good that we chose the big box. And we skipped quality assurance in several areas, but only minor aspects. And yes, we need to produce every model they can, or we can, and that lowers the quality of the product. And again, very dependable. They like the fuel economy very much, and it's average in terms of safety. So overall, I think pretty good stuff. So let's see what the people say. Do they buy it? They buy it, and actually reasonably nice number. So not 412, but I think close. So this was worth it, and that's something that will stay on the market for a good while. Otherwise, rest is fine. Cash flow 1.4 million per month. So that's coming in nicely, and that's the function of having no competition. This will change quite rapidly once we get competition. So the sedan is stable, so we can make a few less. This will also improve quality a little bit. Can make a few less tourings. Rest is great. Yep, those are good adjustments. So everything else, very stable sales at the moment. 7 months till we get to Touring. And a very stable cash flow above the million plus minus. Why do we have now minus 2.6 million cash flow? Oh, bond payment. That was the last big bond that we took out. So that's now gone. That's great. So we should be rid of all loans and bonds, if I'm not mistaken. So let's check that in a minute. Numbers are fine. Now we can design a backbone frame, so that's worth checking next time we design a platform. Melbourne Taxi Service, let's see what they want. Lots of awards and some competition, but not here. Yeah, R&D, contracts, vehicle. Melbourne Taxi Service. Pickup truck. Interesting taxi service. More like... what was that game called? Crazy Taxi? And they take the term pickup truck probably a bit too literal if they want to have a pickup truck as taxi service, but in any case, our pickup truck is too bad in terms of fuel economy. So again, these contracts usually want to have something very fuel economical, which would also make them very sluggish. Big drop in Phaeton sales. So is that price gouging again at work? We're selling it for 887. No. It's old car penalty. Yeah, so it's now showing because it's about 15 years old. So then you can probably just sell it for less and cut production. And so that's the next one on the list then. There was no competition, right? No. Because that would be the same pattern there if we had competition, but we don't. So Touring in 5. So now our Phaeton is 2. Oh, okay. Sales bounced back, so simply lowering sales by $100 did wonders to address that age penalty. So now we're really throwing it away, but we're still making a profit doing so. So let's check yearly sales. A couple new car bodies and up production again, so 1,000. So where are we? So top 50 vehicle sales, 11,200. So we're slowly slipping back, and the top cars are selling double that. So that's everyone growing and us having reached the limits of our continent. 60,000. So that's a bit less than top 10, top 11. Company directory, are we doing there? Well, we're still hanging in. All the largest companies here selling fair bit more. Profits, actually on the top first page in terms of profits. So that's neat. One other thing that also looks great is the loss and profit. So all this red down here were losses that we had when we had to build the infrastructure, and now we are raking in the big bucks. Lots of sales, not that much expenditure, and so all these light green areas is pure profit. So that looks great. Our world market share. So we are here. We have 2% of the world market, so we are still among the top companies also in current market share. Very encouraging. Touring in 4. And our Phaeton selling again, after a bit of a price adjustments. Actually selling plenty. Rest is great, so let's see whether this is just one small uptick, whether we have to make considerably more Phaetons, which I'm happy to do. No, it's fine. It's fine again. So these things look great. Touring in 2, and we can very easily sunset the Touring next month. So yeah, everything works extremely well. So Touring 200. Something like this. Adjust production lines. Yes, but why? So, all Tourings are getting rid of. 7 Sedan sells nicely, so let's make a couple more of those. Everything else sells very well. So 7 Touring can sell for the same price as the old 5 Touring. It's much better now. And yeah, the old one is now getting a little bit stale there. Production will help. So we need to... So 500 of the 7 Touring. Let's make 540 because we're optimistic. Research complete. Auckland taxi service, so now the contracts are coming. Nope. They want a van. We don't have a van. And no one wants a van, I guess. So what's in demand? So Phaeton is now in third place, so slowly on the way out. Sedan is now the most in demand, but also the most expensive, so that's why we're not selling that many. And van is way down here, 1.3%. So that's not really worth bothering. So 5 touring and production. So have we given the 8 pickup a makeover before we, because the next big thing would be the touring, but I think what could also make sense is to give these a bit of a makeover. So 848. Oh, 713, yeah, so then we can sell a fair amount of more pickups and we can actually make them cheaper so that they are less of a drag on our production lines, because I think they're among the worst sellers. Yeah, 161. So then we can have them cheaper and then try to sell more of them. So that's probably worth doing just ever so quickly. A little bit more reliability is nice. More cargo. We like more cargo. Yeah, they like more cargo. So 33. And that's, I think, all they care about anyway. 4 months. Let's do it in 3. There is not much makeover, just making it more efficient. So 740 versus 848, so 100 less. So we can sell it for 100 less. And that's still the R8 pickup. And next one up the list would then be the Phaeton with an entirely new model on the medium wheelbase. So let's see how the new Touring is liked by the press. So the 7 Touring. The 7 horsepower engine is actually more than adequate for the general consumer's daily use. So the 5 HP in the past was too terrible. The 7 is actually fine. So I guess we hit the nail on the head here in terms of how we designed the Touring. They really like the handling. Torque, of course, isn't great. It's not an enjoyable experience, but it's not the worst vehicle in terms of luxury out there. So it's definitely again, sensible sliders here. And now our skills actually show. Plenty of space. Yep, so that's the bigger body. Nothing wrong with build quality. So again, that's probably our skills now being working. Very dependable. They love the fuel economy and lots of safety innovations. So the Touring is really great. Let's just check our skills while we are at it. So these are just horrible, and dealership relation is poor, and not everything is abysmal. So that's definitely an improvement. And while we're at it, how about image? We're not the worst. So we're the 3rd worst in terms of quality, but we're in the field, and that will still rise. We are the worst in terms of performance, still the worst in terms of luxury. And funny enough, the Duesenberg stand in Dukeburg is 2nd worst in luxury. That's funny. And image is also not the worst in image. So now we're in the field, and again, this will keep rising, but at least we are not way behind the established AI. So that's good to see. Okay. How are sales? 7 Touring. Yep, selling reasonably well. So I can make a few more Phaetons. Rest is nice reserves. Can I make more 7 sedans even? In the other factory? Nope, not with our new production line, that's okay. How are our factory unit costs? 140, 180. So that's nice too. So pick up in 2. And what's this? Some national governments hosting our factories and branches have entered a major military conflict. So if we look at the date, August 1914, and any student of history will know this was the starting month of World War I, and this is actually taking place in game as well. So all sales of cars and also all sales of cars are going to be prohibited. because we, as a dominion at this time of the British Empire, don't think the Commonwealth has existed yet. We are legally at war with the Central Powers. So unlike in real life, I think, so all the civilian car sales are banned, and then we have a few options how we can handle this. We'll just cut marketing. I will keep branches and factories open because I can manufacture munitions in the factories. They would be at risk of being destroyed if Australia would be a war zone, so I'm safe about that. So I can simply have all factories make munitions, and this makes us $2 million per month, so nice funds from the state. What I can do though, so everything is, all things are shut down. Mass assault against Brussels, but we are not in Brussels. One thing I will do, which probably doesn't make that much of a difference with our cash, but simply for sort of overall correctness, what I can reduce is sales efficiency. I still keep the dealership resources, and you could say this is us paying the dealers not to sell their lots, and we're paying their power and basic maintenance and so on. But of course, we're not printing any new sales brochures, etc. So this is why I'm reducing the cost. It doesn't really matter in terms of monthly cost, so it goes down from 28 to 19,000, so hardly anything, but that's simply my added realism. We want to keep the dealers, although they can't sell anything, so we're paying their cost, but not doing any new brochures. So the pickup truck can still finish. And then we assume there is no new car development taking place either. We're still getting more design skills because we reasonably recently had designed the last platform. And otherwise, all we can do now is advance. So if I advance just 1 month, we can see the cash flow of 1.5 million per month. So it's not hurting us. We keep our reserves, but we're not selling or producing anything. And otherwise we can or simply have to wait. So new contract requests, we're in a factory anyway. So we're the only ones before the war. So that's nice, I guess. So we can check sales figures one last time for the next years. So 5.5 because we sold less. And lots of cars still sell, because one thing that's also modeled in game, so that the air suspension now. One thing that's modeled is the conflicts, so we can have a look. So only those countries at war are actually affected. So at this point, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, Scandinavia, the US are not at war, but all the British Empire is, including us, but also then the other dominions. And so they can still develop, produce, and sales cars unhindered. So that's why sales still happen and development still happen, but not with us. So we can now have 4-wheel drive. And now it's basically just fast forward. We're going to get the new contracts every 6 months. And yeah, I'm simply looking at them, click them away, and otherwise advance 6 months further. So we can now make single overhead cam engines and front mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars. But we've still just made flat-head engines so far because they were good enough. That's the downside of new competition that I'm going to play up. So reconditioned factories. Don't think we need that. Nothing's happening. We have to recondition things anyway at the end of the war. So racing series and some more competition overseas. Otherwise, nothing new. on the Australian front. Failed our tax audit, so we have to pay 3 million in fines. It wasn't us; it was just an accounting staff. Yeah, don't care about factory condition. One more piece of competition, but again in a faraway country. So no sales, couple new car bodies. Increased demand for town car in Asia. Very interesting. Yes, I know our factories are worn, it doesn't matter. Destruction against Moscow. New contract request, nothing for us. Again, we still win the awards despite no sales going on. And no development either. Decreased demand in 2+2 in South America. Why are they telling me this? So 6/19/18. So we can have a look in the news. So we see some effects of First World War. Destruction in Togliatti. I'm not sure Togliatti existed at this point, or was named like that. In Minsk. Post-war recession. So there is then the outlook towards the end of World War I, of the Great War as it was known back then. More destruction in Yaroslavl. And now we are entering November. And as we can see, factory operations restored, so World War I is over. And we sold, again, the stuff that we had sort of pre-war. And some things would have sold very nicely, others a bit less, and the Phaeton, of course, is now thoroughly outdated. So if we look in the news, armistice signed, the war is over. And we get civil war in German Empire and invasion of Hungary by Romania. Spanish flu infects the world. So all the things that are happening or were happening back then are actually here. And now we have to take care of all sorts of things. So first I'm going to put the sales stuff back into the branches so that we give a bit more dealership growth rate too. So sales efficiency in all our cities, which includes the branch reconditioning. Yes, so that's neat. So simply print the pre-war brochures again. We also recondition the factory, so 91 efficiency in Melbourne. Do the same in Sydney. So more sales resource, and here I'm going for full 4 stars. Factory recondition 87 efficiency. sales resources in Brisbane and in Auckland. So that's that. Production unoptimized, of course, since we have now switched back from munitions building towards car building. So we could have sold 400 Phaetons, so that's now severely outdated. So something like this, 450. Can we make it cheaper? I'm waiting one month how things actually play out. So I'm now putting things into production. So Touring and sedans sell very well because these are the newest cars by far. The good thing we did those before the war. So that's 407 sedans. That's the huge production lines, but that's nice. Can we squeeze everything into one factory? Probably not. That's 450 Tourings. Nope. Some actually, yeah, I can keep things so far as they are. 250 Grand Coupes. That has a lot of leeway upwards. 250 Standard Coupes. So the 8 has to go to Melbourne. And we have a new pickup, so we sell it next month, because we only sold 103. So that's been a bit of a pity, but anyway, so we leave it off. We're not selling it, and we make a good clearance sales of that. 8 sedan, 200, and that's now getting a bit outdated, but anyway. So one would be 166, that's not enough, so we might be able to squeeze everything into Melbourne maybe. 6, 9, 13. That's getting close. We probably need both factories anyway. So I think we've put everything back into production, except the pickup, because we still have plenty of reserves of the old one. Hopefully we're going to get rid of all of them and have a new one. I'm keeping the prices as they are because they were fine. What I should do, of course, so the Phaeton we can look at. So the type rating is 17, and this also reflected in, yeah, the buyer rating is nowhere. We're actually getting a price gouging penalty, so a good thing we checked. So 840 still is terrible, and that's the big age penalty. So everything else, and the engine smoothness, ever so slightly. But that platform is now 18 years old, 17 years old. So we need to design a new Phaeton. And from the looks of it, we'll be able to see that it actually goes on the medium platform. So we're putting the newest, putting the newest stuff, including a gearbox with a reverse gear, into a Phaeton, because these still exist, but these are also Phaetons. So that's what we used, no, what we could have used for the Touring. So they are a bit of an overlap. So this is 715. This is large wheelbase. This is medium wheelbase. This is large wheelbase. These are even larger, but I'll leave those eventually for the Touring. So we could, of course, make something like this. So the small one Here's another thing that we can use. 668 is smaller than this. Yes. We could have used, of course, something like this. So these ones, but that's not really the future of the Phaetons. So the future of the Phaetons are actually 4-seaters. Here's one more. 648. Nope. Then it's the Dynasta. So that's going to be our Phaeton. And again, here we can actually keep things very cheap. And material costs are also very low. So middle class. So nothing fancy at all. And then, as usual, see what actually makes a difference. Demographic testing. But at least it doesn't make things worse anymore, but doesn't make anything better really. Oh, it makes actually things worse. 28 to 29. So they like reliability, if I'm not mistaken, they do. 31, 32, 33. Let's keep it at 32. There's always wiggle room to improve things further. Cargo. 33. Safety. 34. Performance. 35. Can I get some 36 through a shrewd combination of things? Yes. That's 36. Some more quality. 394. 402. So maybe some of those that we get some more overall scores. That we actually don't make the worst thing possible. Here we go. Comfortability. 403. 12 months. Can we expedite this? 11 months. 561. 10 months, 834. I think for the Phaeton we can rush things a little bit. So 834. And this is going to be a pretty good Phaeton. Not the most fuel efficient, but nice top speed. And hang on, we can do one other thing. And I'm going to save the current sliders, because I'm not going to do this all over again. So Phaeton 1918. I had probably done this before at some point in a test game. 18.2. One thing that's worth doing is give things a makeover. So major modification. It's cheap. So let's go with major for the chassis. Major for GN then gives more torque, so and more fuel economy, so that's definitely what we're going to do. And I think the gearbox is also worth overhauling. And major gives 2 more reliability over significance, so that's that. And then make another Phaeton with the same stats. So 7 horsepower, that's the newest one, and then the 2-speed gearbox. That was the Dynasta. And let's load the Phaeton 1918-2. 38. Wow, that's really good. So we might 10 months, 872. So can we? Yeah, now we can't really reduce things. Things are just genuinely better. So these sliders are actually well placed. Performance gets a little boost, and interior quality too. So 9 months, 832, 426 material cost, and that can always be improved further. So fuel efficiency in the end 13.8, so that's I think something they appreciate. So that's our 7 Phaeton. What we also need to do at some point, pretty soon, is to start designing components again. But I think for the time being it's more important to get a new of our biggest sellers on the road. That's going to be the Phaeton. And it's simply assumed during the war no car development would happen. Alright, then hope this was interesting to see us through the First World War. And now next episode we're going to look at how we get back up to our feet and how much we can actually sell then in the time when the reconstruction happens. So all of that in the next episode.